two issues are the two most important issues according to what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And a number of ayat. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Your Lord, He has legislated and decreed that you worship Him alone and you don't make shirk with Allah, and that you give your parents their rights, that you give ihsan. So in these ayats and the hadith, Allah puts His rights first, and then after Allah's rights, the person who has the most rights on you are your parents. So these two are mentioned throughout the Quran. And that's because clearly, if a person doesn't have the ability to respect his parents, then he doesn't have the ability to respect other people. If a person doesn't have the ability to respect his parents, he doesn't have the ability to respect other people. If the individual doesn't know Allah, then he doesn't have the ability to respect his parents and the other people. So they go hand in hand. Both of them go hand in hand. We wanted to mention this issue to you brothers as a reminder, and because of the seriousness of the issue, and we want to begin to take stock of this issue that we need to consider. Some of us are falling into uquq al-walidain, and the person is praying, and the person is trying to be a real Muslim. She wears niqab and jilbab. The person is thinking that they're practicing, but they fall into uquq al-walidain. The man came to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I bear witness, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I pray 5 times a day. I fast in the month of Ramadan. I give zakat, and I also make hajj. Ya Rasulullah, Mada li, Mada tarali. What do you think is going to happen to me? What's my reward for these things that I'm doing? Like the one who's practicing Islam. He doesn't consider himself to do uquq al-walidain. He's practicing. But he is an individual who he has cut off his parents. He is an individual who he doesn't connect with his parents. He is an individual who abandoned his parents. He says some things that are not correct. He's doing all of those things, but he still falls into some of these things with the parents. The Prophet said to that man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who did all of those things, مَنْ فَعَلَ ذَلِكَ فَهُوَ مَعَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ إِلَّا أَنْ يَعُقُّ وَالِدَيْهِ. He said, anyone who does these things that you're mentioning, these 5 things of Islam, anyone who does it, then Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be with the Nabiyyin, the prophets. He's going to be with the Siddiqeen, Abu Bakr, and those people on high level of Sidq and Iman. And he's going to be with the Shuhada, those people who were killed defending al-Islam. He said they'll be with them as long as they don't make uquq al-walidain. So it goes to show that if you're a practicing person, and you're making efforts to practice, but you fall into some of the aspects of uquq al-walidain, there are some problems. Now I want to share with you brothers some of the things that the Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam about uquq al-walidain concerning the uqubat, the punishment for uquq al-walidain, and they are a lot. I just mentioned 2 or 3 here today. But before mentioning them, inshallah, I want you to consider something. All of you have heard this kalam before. This is not something new. Everyone here knows the importance of birrul walidain. Everyone here knows the evil of uquq al-walidain. There's a point that I want to bring to your attention before we get into some of the punishments, the uqubat for this kabira from the kabair. Everyone who is here is making sins. They're sinning to Allah without an exception, because that's the nature of Bani Adam. The person has to try to cover his sins, and he has to make tawbah to Allah for his sins. He doesn't broadcast his sins. So this individual is drinking khamr. That individual is gambling and going to the lottery. This one over here, he may be smoking cigarettes. This one over here is missing salat. This one over here is committing zina, fornication. That one over there, he murdered someone. Everyone is doing sins. Everyone. But Allah Azza wa Jalla does not call you to account all the time right away for what you do. Allah allows people the room to do one of 2 things. A person is doing a sin. He has a girlfriend. She has a boyfriend. May Allah protect us from that. Allah allows the relationship to continue for 2 years and nothing really happens. He allows it for 1 or 2 reasons. One reason is perchance that person is going to make tawbah. Ramadan is going to come around and they're going to feel religious and they're going to make tawbah and they're going to stop doing what they did. Allah gave them room. Something happens in his life, someone died, a catastrophe happened, the person comes to his senses. He hears a Quran recitation, he hears a lecture, he becomes motivated, he makes tawbah. Allah gave him room. Once he makes tawbah, Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't hold him responsible for that evil that he did, he forgave him. The second reason Allah delays the punishment is he delays the punishment to give the person rope to strangle himself. Allah gives him rope to strangle himself, to establish the hujjah against him, so that when he dies, it will be said, you had all of this opportunity to make tawbah and you didn't make tawbah. That's why the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you see a person doing sins, and Allah allows him to do the sins, and he doesn't hold them to account, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَوْ اسْتِدْرَاجٍ, know that Allah is just giving him rope and giving him the rope to hang himself. So no one should think, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and no one sees me, no one caught me. No, Allah is going to catch you sooner or later if you don't make tawbah. Now, the issue about uquq al-walidain, this is the point that we want to make. Uquq al-walidain is not like those sins. Drinking khamr, gambling, doing the lottery, smoking, drinking what's haram, making zina, murdering someone. Uquq al-walidain is not like that. The Prophet said about uquq al-walidain, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, ma min dhanbin أجدر أن يؤجل الله تعالى لصاحبه العقوبة في الدنيا مع ما يدخر له في الآخرة من البغي وقطيعة الرحم. The Prophet said, out of all of the sins that the people do, the one sin that Allah is quick to hold a person to account for it and to punish him for it is the sin of breaking the ties of relationship, being bad to one's parents. When the person falls into uquq al-walidain, then the punishment from Allah, it could come very quickly and you don't get a chance to make tawbah. And that's established in the Quran and the Sunnah. This point is established in the Quran and the Sunnah. Take a look at Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf, the surah we read every Friday. Most of us are familiar with Surah Al-Kahf and the treasures and the stories and the benefits of Surah Al-Kahf. Allah Ta'ala mentioned, فَانْطَلَقَا حَتَّى إِذَا لَقِيَا غُلَامٍ فَقَتَلَهُ. Musa and Khidr, they went forward. They went together. They proceeded. And they came to a boy and Khidr killed the boy. If you go back and you read Sahih Bukhari about this incident, Sahih Bukhari, the hadith, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Musa and Khidr came to a city. They saw a boy playing with the other boys. Khidr said, come here, to the boy, come here. The boy came, Khidr cut his head off. Cut his head off. Now, when we read that story, we need to consider, he cut the boy's head off. That is a graphic image. That is a graphic image to see someone with his head cut off. Those of us who come from countries where there's carnage and violence, like some of us who 20 years ago, 19, 18, 17 years ago, recently, you go to South Sudan, Somalia, you'll see some things that are not nice to see, with people getting blown up and killed. You go to the Muslim world where people are getting killed. You see some horrific injuries. When you look at the injury, the person on his fitras, he says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. How could Bani Adam do this to one another? One of those injuries is to see someone's head cut off. So why did he cut his head off? Khidr went on and he explained later on in the story, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, أَمَّا الْغُلَامِ فَكَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْنِ فَخَشِينَ أَنْ يُرْحِقَهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. That young boy who I killed, his parents were two believers, and he was disobedient. And we were afraid that he was going to grow up and he would make tughyan and kufr to his parents. So we killed him. 2 points. 2 points here. He killed him right away. The boy didn't get a chance to grow up in his life, make tawbah from what he was doing. He received the punishment right away. As the hadith said, all of these sins that Bani Adam makes, Allah will give a person rope. But uquq al-walidain, you'll have to pay for that right away, in one shape, form, or fashion. The other thing that we should consider is, again, the graphic, horrific way that the boy was killed. In Islam, there are certain punishments that you receive, like getting your hand chopped off. If you see someone and he got his hand chopped off, you know he did a big crime in this deen. Another crime, You can get your hand chopped off and your foot chopped off on the other side. Anyone